Right from the beginning of the war in Ukraine, ENC has set up an aid fund for the Ukrainian communities. In the first part of this interview, Kevin Bridges shared which most needed items could already be provided, delivered across the border, and distributed for the most severely affected regions in Ukraine, as far as circumstances permitted. But there is more to say about this aid project by the European Network of Communities for their sister communities in Ukraine. Here's part 2 of my talk with Kevin. The other day we got a prayer alert in the ENC WhatsApp group by Oleg. He just had sent an SMS to his wife saying, "I'm in danger, please pray." So everybody in Ukraine was praying and beyond. How did this story follow up?
So yeah, it was late in the evening. I got this message saying, "Please, can you pray for Oleg? He might not make it through the night." That they were under a heavy attack by the Russians, and a lot of people prayed. The next morning, they sent a short message saying that they'd survived, they got through the night, and they were even able to find food and water, which was also a miracle because you can't always find food or water. The next 36 hours or so became much more difficult. We had no news. His wife had no news for about 36 hours. And eventually they shared that they had to leave the position. They'd been told to keep this position as long as they could. They had no ammunition. They had nothing to defend themselves with. And in the end, they ended up having to run away with bullets flying by their side. And they said if it was not for prayer, they would not have made it out. It was such a difficult situation that they knew that if it was not for prayer, they would never have made it out. So just incredibly thankful for prayer. They really can feel when people are praying, and they know that things which would have normally killed them haven't killed them. Perhaps we can add at this time that Oleg is the person who has been on one of our posters where bulletproof vests are required, and we understand why. So this may be the most important item they need. On the other hand, night vision equipment is also important to at least know where the enemy is and where to hide. So this can really save many lives. Now, you're in the midst of all these administrative issues. It's certainly not easy. So I can assume that even some bureaucratic and some other complications arise when you try to send aid to the Ukraine. Can you give us just a glimpse into your daily work, Kevin? One example of just how difficult it is to do things which you would consider to be easy or straightforward. A couple of weeks ago, we got a message from Orest in the Ukrainian network of communities saying, "Please, can you send 10,000 euros in cash? We need to use this for buying some things." And to get it from Austria to Ukraine shouldn't be too difficult, you would think. Austria is where our account is, so that's where the money is being collected and forwarded to wherever it's needed. To make an international transfer doesn't work very well at the moment. The exchange rate is terribly bad, and you lose a lot of money with transferring. So they said, "Please, can we get hard currency? This is much more helpful." But to get the cash over there quickly is not very easy. In the end, I remembered that there was one acquaintance that I know, someone who is from a Protestant church in Bratislava, and I'd seen a Facebook post saying that they would take aid weekly from Bratislava to Lviv. So I wrote and I said, when are you going next? Is it possible to give you money to give to the Ukrainians, which we know? And he said, "Unfortunately, it will be in another week's time. We're not going this weekend." I thought, oh no. So I was starting to think how else this could happen. And then the next morning, he wrote me again and he said, I found somebody who's going. I found somebody who lives in Prešov, the other side of the country, but they're in this part of the country at the moment, and they are able to collect money from me in the afternoon. Can I give them the money? And I said, well, yes and no, because to get it from Austria to Slovakia is not very easy. It takes a day or two with the transfer. And he said, I'll lend the money. So he personally gave 10,000 euros of his own money to this man, and this man drove with it and other supplies to Lviv, and was able to pass it along to our people there. And this was the Saturday afternoon when the US president had been in Poland, and the Russians bombed a lot of places around Lviv. The big petrol storage places were on fire. You probably saw it in the news. So he was right there on the ring road, giving the money over in the situation where these places were being attacked.
So what is needed are good nerves. On the other hand, also a lot of goodwill. There are some other stories that you had earlier shared with me.
We found some more bulletproof vests in Slovakia a week or so ago. And it's this situation where it's not someone who directly finds it. It's a friend of a friend of a friend who finds some bulletproof vests, and they say, we've got this. If you need it, we can help you get it. And so we just had the information that we need to send 5,000 euros to this bank account, and then we'd be able to get the vests. But we got the information, I think at 6 o'clock on a Friday evening. A normal transfer between countries takes 1 or 2 days. If it's at the weekend, it might not arrive until Tuesday or Wednesday. So by the time the vests would get back to where they're needed, it would basically be a week. So we said, is there a quicker way of doing this? So immediately I called up St. Martin's, the one community in Slovakia, and I said, is there a possibility of borrowing 5,000 euros? We'll send the money next week, but can we get this and can we send it to this account? The problem was that the account in Slovakia was with a smaller bank, and they close at 5 o'clock on Fridays, and they don't open until Monday. So, okay, how can we solve this? We were looking then for business people or anyone who might have 5,000 euros, it's not a small amount, who would be able to lend it to us, and then they would get the money back on Monday morning when we could get someone to put it directly to their account. That evening, the next morning, I got a message from somebody I don't know. They've never met me before in their life. And they said, I hear that you need 5,000 euros for Ukraine. You need to borrow 5,000 euros. Do you still need it? I can lend it. And just the level of trust that people have to be able to say, here's 5,000 euros. I don't know who you are, but I know that my friend's friend says you're okay, is incredible. In that specific situation, we managed to solve it in a different way beforehand, but the level of trust is incredible. And the way in which things are so complicated, it seems so easy to say, send money to pay for something, but the reality of making it happen is sometimes incredibly difficult, especially when you're wanting it to happen quickly between countries, and you know that it's time critical.
So if you're watching this video, don't forget to put Kevin also on your prayer list. His support is just as much needed as your money, your support, your advice, perhaps also possibilities to find any of these items that are so desperately needed. Yes, we're speaking about money. Can I ask very openly, how much money have you gotten so far through the ENC donation fund? And how much has been already spent? And how much more do you need?
So I just got some updated numbers just an hour or so ago. We've totally received 84,000 euros so far, which is incredible. From that, we've spent already 54,000 euros approximately, some of that is on its way at the moment. So we'll soon be able to release another 30,000. we've had donations also from different strategic partners in America, sort of the spirit in Europe as well, have sent money knowing that we have got these connections in Ukraine. So yeah, there's a lot which has come in, a lot which has gone out. How much is needed? There's no limit. The needs are incredible. There's now this major intensification which is happening with a buildup in the east. A lot of people are being mobilized and sent, often without equipment, without bulletproof vests. So the needs are great in that area. In the humanitarian area, there's a lot of people who are internally displaced who are now leaving the east, coming to the west. In the early days of a crisis like this, the people who leave are the people who have money, they have connections. The people who are leaving now are the people who don't have connections. They don't have money. They're leaving with the few possessions that they have. So the needs are bigger now than they were at the beginning. And yeah, and at the same time, in the early days, people are very generous, very motivated. But as time goes on, some of that supply becomes less. So now is the time when we need more, not less.
And it's not just the situation in Ukraine itself, it's also the refugees. There are some where we have been able to organize accommodation for them, and also special medical care. There's this story about the woman who needed a cancer treatment.
We got contacted again through a friend of a friend of a friend, a lady from Ukraine. She'd been diagnosed with cancer a short time ago. She'd had surgery and she needed to get treatment. She needed to find treatment outside of the Ukraine. It was no longer possible where she was living. And she'd been offered a possibility of receiving treatment in Amsterdam, but they can provide the treatment, but not the accommodation, not that side of things. So she had a child and her mother and was needing to find somewhere. And we were able to search for somebody in Amsterdam. We don't have any communities in Amsterdam, but we managed to find a contact through a friend of mine, a Protestant pastor in Amsterdam, and I think it was his parents who took her in. So the world is getting much smaller. There's a lot of connections which are being made in the body of Christ at this time, where people are supporting other people, where things which you wouldn't have imagined to be possible are becoming possible.
Yeah, it seems like the acronym ENC becomes very important right now. We're European-wide. We are networking between our communities, other networks of communities, local churches, people, and of course we're looking at communities. We're trying to find that common good for everybody. Of course, if you want to contribute yourself, you find all the details in the video description. Please also feel free to share this video with your friends. The need is great, and it doesn't look like this war is going to be over anytime soon. And so we are committed to our friends, to our Ukrainian friends, and they often tell us, if it weren't for you, we wouldn't even know that we have a family. So let's stand together as a family. Thank you very much, Kevin. Also, we'll pray for you and for all the logistical issues in the background. Thank you very much.
Thank you.